Hello again, ladies and gents. I'm stoked you've returned to the Silly Talks Music podcast for the second part of my interview with Kathy Wilson from the Brisbane-based vinyl pressing plant Suitcase Records. My name is Saba. I'm the host of this show and also the founder of the Silly McWiggles project, which basically means covering everything and anything Aussie music and Aussie music business related. This chat builds on what Kathy and I discussed before. In the previous episode, we covered a lot of ground. Still, it can be summarized as the art and craft of vinyl pressing, something that seems to have been forgotten or neglected in the last few decades. Luckily, companies like Suitcase Records are bringing this magic back to artists and fans alike. And I found it fascinating to hear from Kathy about all the trade's intricacies. I mean, who would have thought that the machine settings need to be readjusted if air humidity changes, for example? So if you haven't listened to that episode, I strongly recommend going back to it first, just for the context. Because in this one, it will be more about the people who run this complex operation, combining technology and creativity in one unique product. So without further ado, let's find out more about Kathy.
Well, my name's Kathy Wilson. I'm the co-owner of Suitcase Records here in Brisbane. We are the third vinyl pressing plant in Australia, and we're the most recent. It's a family-run company. My husband and I started it together. Our son does our social media marketing, and our daughter does a lot of work for us as well. So we're really about the Australian music industry and about providing a great option for Australian musicians to make money out of their music, because I think it's not being done enough.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's why I write the blog as well, so I feel you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is your relationship to music? Like your background is in like corporate comms, was it? Or
Yeah. 20 years corporate comms. I worked for Expedia and companies like that doing sort of large scale SEO. Loved it. And before that, various marketing jobs and PR jobs around the place. My husband's an architect by trade. And we hit a point, we were turning 50, both of us. Our kids were pretty much grown up and were moving out of home. And we were looking for a new adventure, I guess. And at that time, a lot of the news was about how vinyl had already significantly come back into the market. It wasn't new news then. But what was happening at the time was that there was this massive demand, limited supply. And it was actually my husband's idea. And he came to me one Sunday morning and said, "Hey, this could be a cool idea." And I said, "Yeah, what a cool idea." And kind of wandered and kept going about my business. And about a week later, he'd done the sums and it stacked up. It was potentially risky as everything was, but just felt like a really great adventure.
Where does the name come from, by the way? I thought about that. It's called Suitcase Records. Is there a story behind it as well?
Yeah. So at our old place, we used to have artist gigs where, again, because we always just love Australian musicians. So we would contact artists that we love, Australian artists, get them to play in our backyard, and we would sell tickets to all our friends. So we'd have all these big gigs of like 100 people and set up a stage and sound system and pay the artist what we considered fair rates. And the artists always used to arrive with usually an old battered suitcase full of records and merch that they would then sell on. And it was just such a happy thing when all our friends were queuing around buying T-shirts and vinyl and stuff. So that's where it came from.
Let me stop the chat here for a minute to share an observation. There is something special about family-run companies, wouldn't you say? Maybe it's because they normally start really small and are very hands-on from the beginning, so they work really closely with their clients and partners. I read up on Suitcase Records on their website before chatting with Kathy, so I know they're very people and values oriented. So let's talk about those two things. Who makes up the company then? And what do they all believe in?
So there's a total of 4 full-time staff. And so that's Neil and I. And there's the production supervisor, who is Lee, who's the one I was telling you about, who is really the magician with the machine. He's on the floor all the time. And we have June, who's at the front end, taking in customers, artwork, audio, orders, questions, all that sort of stuff. So sort of broadly speaking, June and I are in the front end. Neil, Lee, and Gabrielle are in the back end. We use freelancers as we need to for various, designers and various things like that. But yeah, it's a pretty small team.
So you said your role within the company was more like on the, let's say, directorial kind of level.
Again, that's the theory. I do anything that needs doing, as do we all, to be honest. So my background is comms and marketing, so that's kind of where I would love to spend a lot of my time, and I do spend a lot of it. But one of the things that we pride ourselves on being really accessible via the phone. So I spend maybe a couple hours a day, some days, just answering people's questions, taking emails, figuring out why that shipment didn't arrive. Honestly, we all do all of it. At some point, we'll get more mature, I think, and we will have different things. One of the things that we're working on at the moment is procedures for everything. And it's one of the things that we've probably been doing for the last year and a half, which sounds boring until you realize how procedures save you brain space for the good stuff. And also it's safe hands for artists. If they know this is what happens now and this is what happens next, and we've done this before, and those procedures being consistent the whole way throughout just makes everybody's life really calm.
I get this impression that it's very important to you as well that you are kind of like partially female run and there are like females working for your company. Why is it important? Does it have anything to do that, in general, and you can't deny it, in the music business, like globally, there are less women working and like having something to say than men, or is it for any other reason?
I don't understand why we're still having this conversation, but
Sorry.
we are, and we have to. And so I think it's hugely important, and I really care, and I do as much as I can. I say but Neil and I feel the same way in it. At the moment, we're equal 50-50, but we would be really keen to try and even skew it the other way and find more women to get into, certainly into the manufacturing side. It leads into a whole other conversation, but I think if we possibly can, because we believe in it, I think we need to and even if it's a bit more training or there's somebody who's not exactly well suited, I just want to see more women doing what they want to do. And if it's not manufacturing, fine, they don't have to, but if they want to, and if anybody's hearing this, contact me, because yeah, I feel really strongly about it. I really do. I was actually just speaking to, we've got Women in Manufacturing. It's an arm of the state government, bringing out female students from regional high schools to come out and do tours of the factory. Again, I feel weird. Why is it interesting that I'm a female and here? But here we are. So yeah, I care a lot.
Yeah, and it shows, I can tell. I'm going to add something quickly to this bit. Apart from empowering women, the owners of Suitcase Records are both also passionate about sustainability in their sector. If you're keen on finding out how they strive to be environmentally friendly in a field that mostly deals with plastic products, check out the Silly and Green segment on my YouTube channel, where Kathy walks me through everything the company is doing to be more sustainable. You'll find the link to it in the episode's notes. And speaking of the product Suitcase Records manufactures, in the first episode of this chat with Kathy, we spent a reasonable amount of time talking about the technicalities of making it. How about now we cover something a bit more artistic? After all, we're talking about vinyl, which carries music, one of the art forms. So in this next section, Kathy explains what you can do with the black disc on the creative front, and who normally comes up with the vinyl art.
It's very not uncommon for artists to come in and say, I don't have any idea what a lot of the reason for that is because there was so much lost knowledge in the vinyl industry for such a long time, 20 20, 30 years, nobody was talking about vinyl. So artists who are coming to us now don't have any obligation to understand vinyl. So we often start with an explanation of, what kind of jackets you can have. So, 3 mil spine jacket, 5 mil spine jacket, gatefold jacket. Sometimes we start right there. When you say a creative department, that's one of us who are here. But we love it, and we've done it enough now, and we make sure we take enough time to make sure that people are really happy. We have designers that if the artist doesn't have anybody, we can recommend different designers. We just work with artists until they're happy.
Okay, so because when I think vinyl, and my logo is a bit like a vinyl as well, if you
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah, it is.
kind of like a modern take on it. But you think about like the black kind of thing, like the black disc. And I
Yep.
see now that there is a lot of like, people who order these very like colorful vinyls and stuff. So do you notice like tendencies and trends and like what's kind of like the in thing in vinyls now? Is it about the color? Is it about like the I don't know the pattern on it, or you probably would know what's kind of like cool
Um,
now.
do you know what? I actually think it's less a trend and it's about an ability for an artist to flex their creative muscles and do something that suits their particular product. Um, Splatter is popular at the moment and they look fantastic. They look really beautiful. And the combination of we work with artists quite closely and they show us their artwork at the proposal stage and we talk about various, what combinations of colors could work because you can do splatters where the colors really pop. But if you choose the wrong colors, they can all kind of mush into each other, if you like. So splatter's really popular. We are also pushing pretty hard into the sustainability space. And one of the things that we're doing there is using regrind. We do all sorts of die cuts. We've done some really beautiful die cuts where, in fact, if anybody's interested, look up the Geordie Lane album because it's pretty great. It's a gatefold jacket with a printed inner sleeve, but there's a die cut on the jacket, which when you pull the inner sleeve out, it changes how the cover looks. So that takes a lot of time and care. We had to get prototypes of it, and it's a cost that the artist needs to decide that that's worthy of. I will say this is one of our favorites, definitely not the favorite, but Geordie is an Australian who lives in Nashville and a terrific singer, songwriter. He's one that we just listen to all the time. You know those ones that you want to put on your turntable all the time? He's one of those. He was also a joy to work with, and the jacket album was a challenge and worked out really well, and we're all really happy with it. So, and there's also some really gorgeous colors as well, just pure colors at the moment. I don't know if you've got a chance to look at our site and
Yes,
have a look at the
yes,
offerings. There's just,
yeah.
it's just gorgeous.
I totally second what Kathy just mentioned. And I also encourage you to go to the Suitcase Records website and check out all the different types of designs you can get. It's amazing what you can do with a disc that was originally just purely black and a little boring. You'll find Geordie Lane's album there as well, and it's really something else, trust me. And on that note as well, Suitcase Records has pressed for a variety of Aussie artists over the nearly 3 years of the company's existence. So I'm pretty sure they have heaps of stories to tell about those collaborations. But before diving into that segment, which I like to call the gossip column, I was really curious to find out whether Kathy's favorite Aussie act has already walked through the company's door.
That is such a great question. Yes. Yes, they have. And I can give you a tip as well. It's in the country genre.
Okay. Well, how
Yeah.
lucky are you then, that the kind of one of your dreams probably, came true. And
Yeah.
so another one, do you sometimes get like a cheeky autograph from the artist and like they send you the vinyl back like autographed and you have like a wall of, and you just put them all up and like, these artists have pressed with us?
So here's a funny thing. When I first hear that we've got an artist, right, that that we scored this, and we've had, really great artists come through. If they're super big, often they're through labels and we don't actually have any one-on-one communication with them sometimes. Um, But in the process of getting to know them, like they come and visit and they're people. And so when you know them as people, it feels weird to get an autograph.
Yeah.
So we had Ballpark Music come in last week. Do you know Ballpark Music?
Of course I do.
Yeah. Also, again, really, I'm a big fan, long time fan. And the whole band arrived with their kids. And but it feels just so weird. By the time somebody's been there for an hour and a half, you feel like, not that they're friends, I don't mean that, but that they're just people who just happen to be really great musicians. And so, no, the answer is no, we don't. But I do have photos. I get photos as much. We got G Flip in out here. I was a bit, I know, but again, and also asking for an autograph then would have been a bit uncool too. So no, I never quite managed it. But yeah, G Flip was very cool.
Tell me quickly about that segment that you invited me to do, which is about like reviewing
Yes.
albums, which is something different on your website as well.
Yeah, it is. So what we're finding is that we were having all these amazingly talented musicians coming to press records with us, and we'd press 100 or 150 or whatever, and they'd come to the factory and we'd hand them to them, say, how your pre-sales going, how's your promotion going? And over and over there were these artists who just couldn't promote themselves. It just wasn't their skill set. And so one of the things we started to do, but we work a lot with people in the music industry, was send test pressings out to people whose opinions we respect, and just got them to do a review of the album to camera. Can be 4 minutes, basically just another way of connecting. Basically, we're trying to fix this whole problem of buying stuff online is soulless. But if there's somebody that you respect who talks about an album that they've heard to camera, it suddenly personalizes it all. And I just want people like you talking about the album with the knowledge you have and the language you have. That's it. It's as simple as that, and it's working. Our stats, I don't know if you've had a look at that page I sent you, which is like, I just heard a new album.
Yeah.
We've had 66,000 views on that page. I don't know who it is, but there's something about it that is resonating with people, I think. I just think we all need that connection more than ever before. It doesn't all have to be sugary and easy to digest. And I think that's a fair point too.
I couldn't agree more. That's what reviews are for, after all. Someone, mostly deemed an expert in a certain discipline, gives their opinion about something. And opinion, by definition, is subjective and personal. So sometimes it might be even unpopular, because we all have different tastes. And thank the Lord for that. Otherwise, the world would be super boring, don't you think? Having said that, I'm super stoked to have been asked to review an album of an artist Suitcase Records has pressed for. And now is the time to reveal who that is. I've had the enormous pleasure of sharing a few thoughts on Phebe Starr's album Dirt from 2024. So if you want to know how I approached that review, visit the I Just Heard a New Album segment on the Suitcase Records website. The link to it is in the show's notes. And whilst you're at it, do learn more about the Brisbane-based vinyl pressing plant, especially since they share heaps of insightful resources about the whole process, including fact sheets, videos, and other helpful guidelines. This might be the end of my chat with Phebe Wilson, the co-director of the company, but I'm sure we'll be in touch again. They'll be doing some sustainability research in Europe, it turns out, so hopefully our paths will cross again, in real life this time. So many thanks to Phebe for the wealth of knowledge she kindly shared about a slightly forgotten trade that's making a spectacular comeback, if you ask me. And don't forget to check out my YouTube channel for an excerpt from this chat that focuses on the environmental initiatives at Suitcase Records. It's under the Silly and Green segment. Apart from YouTube, you can also find me on other social media platforms. I'm at Silly McWiggles pretty much everywhere. And if you prefer the old school way of getting news, reviews, and interviews, I mean in the written format, then visit my sillymcwiggles.blog. The last couple of years have clearly shown me that life happens whilst we're making plans, as the saying goes. So I can't confirm yet when the next episode of the Silly Talks Music Show will be dropping. Recently, opportunities come to me from different angles and at the least expected moments. So keep an eye out for updates. Or, better yet, follow this podcast where you normally listen to it. Thanks heaps for tuning in today. Speak soon, I hope. Ciao!